Welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. As a disclaimer, this channel is for entertainment purposes. These are my opinions. I'm not here to slander anyone. I do intend to speculate, and I do intend to absolutely blow your mind in this episode. So let's get started. Why am I doing this video today? This is the one that a lot of you out there have been waiting on, because we're going to revisit that timeline, and I'm going to show you the receipts of that timeline. Also, after watching some of the theories that are out there recently, and when I get comments on my videos, people telling me, hey, Pavarotti, there's a chance that everybody's still alive and this is a big psyop. Well, that's when I go ahead and spill the beans on everything. Because as I've mentioned this in videos in the past, there is a concerted effort out there. And the effort is to steer people in the wrong direction. I'm not blaming any content creators. I don't think they have any nefarious reasons to steer people in the wrong direction. What happens is we all look at our comments. There's a lot of great comments in our comment section. A lot of people take information from those comments. But as I've mentioned, there is people in the intelligence community that has a stake in the game when it comes to this case. And if you don't believe that they will go into the comments section and intentionally try to steer you down a rabbit hole, especially as a content creator, and get you to push that information so that it takes all the eyes that are on this case and points them in a different direction, well, if you don't believe that, I'm sorry, but it's true. And they do it consistently. And that is usually where these, ridiculous theories come from. And they're so convincing in your comment section that it even makes you want to consider them. So with that being said, and seeing all that, I've just got to put it out there for you folks. Now, in the last few days, you'll notice I did a video on the IGG because I knew when you start pointing out true facts in a timeline and you point out a big hole, which is where the heck did they get to Mr. Kohberger? There was something that happened between the 15th of December and the 15th of December 2022 and the 23rd of December 2022 that put his name on the radar. What could that have been? I went ahead and did the IGG video right after that. And miraculously, we have motions filed to release the information on the IGG information so that we can get that back out in the public's mind. Hey, this is how they really got to Kohberger. Let's argue on the legitimacy of the IGG information for the next 6 months and try to put everybody's mind on that. Was the investigation real or not? Smoke screen, folks. It's a big smoke screen, and I'm going to show you why. And in this video, I assure you, it's probably going to go for a little while. You need to stick with me to the end, folks. And just trust me when I say this, because in this video, I'm going to bust some things out that's going to freak you out, okay? And I'm not holding back. We're back to that timeline. December 15th through December 23rd. What happened? How did they get to Mr. Kohberger? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you with straight receipts. It's going to be clear as day. Okay? But one thing that you've got to know in this case is the players do not change. Okay? And when I say players, I mean players. Who are the players in this case? Well, the ones that do all the playing, as you can see, are the defense attorneys, the prosecuting attorneys, and the judge. Those are the players in this case. And why? Because those are the players in all the cases in Leetah County. Okay? You're going to hear names today that'll freak you out. When I show you how they got to Kohberger, it's going to be those same players and other players that you've already heard of. You know, people like Kathy Mabbitt, the coroner, right? You know, Kathy Mabbitt's the coroner there. No, she's also a public defender, which means she reports directly to the chief public defender, which is Miss Ann Taylor. Okay, now let's go back to these original offenses that I've been discussing for a long time. You know, the mother and the stepmother in this case, and their charges that they had that started all this stuff rolling. Now, you've heard many times, and they'll be in the comments, people will try, it's been disputed. Ann Taylor is not the attorneys of the mothers and the stepmother. She just wasn't their attorney. She was the chief public defender. Well, she was the chief public defender, and I know she's made that statement on public record. But let me just show you something here, folks, because when you dig into the details just a little bit, it's amazing what you can find. And they can try to hide it all they want, and they have. They tried to hide it, but they can't hide the public record. All they can do is alter it just a smidge. But let's go to, what is Miss Mama in this case, okay? Let's take a quick look at who is the attorney of record in her cases. Okay, did you see that where it said attorney retained Ann Taylor? But it said she was inactive, so the new attorney of record is somebody else. Well, that doesn't change the fact that the attorney that was retained on her case when all this went down was Ann Taylor. So that means if a deal was made with the Drug Task Force and the charges were going to get reduced in her case, her attorney would have all the knowledge of everything that was going to take place with the deal made with that Drug Task Force. And she was the attorney of record at the time that all this went down. But the stepmother, she wasn't her attorney though, was she? Couldn't have been the attorney of record in that case because that's been debunked, right? That's all been debunked. Well, let's take a look at who the record of the attorney was on the stepmother in the case. Catch that one, folks? Right there in the court records. Attorney retained Ann Taylor. Now, it listed her as inactive, and there was a new attorney of record in the case because they want to clean that up. But they can't erase court records altogether. So the attorney of record that was retained at the time of the offense, at the time that I suggest that she was working with the Drug Task Force, was Ann Taylor. So she would have full knowledge of everything that was taking place because she has to work with the prosecutor to make the deals. Okay? Now, the stepmother, as I have speculated, was sentenced to a pretty harsh sentence. She got her possession of a controlled substance with intent to deliver and her possession of a controlled substance and possession of paraphernalia. Well, she entered a plea deal, got the possession with intent dropped, got the paraphernalia dropped, and they agreed to go ahead with the possession of a controlled substance. It's my contention that she didn't go through with her deal because they put off the sentencing in that for some reason. And when they finally sentenced her because she didn't complete her agreement with that Drug Task Force, she was sentenced to 3 to 4 years in the state penitentiary. Harsh. And you know, thinking back to Steve G's statement to the public when he said, you know what, they didn't have to go upstairs. I believe now that Steve G was saying that because she didn't go through with setting somebody up like she was supposed to. And he knew that. So they didn't have to go upstairs. She wasn't going to do it anyways, and she didn't. They went upstairs anyways, though, didn't they? Okay, now, speaking of the mother, though, she had those same stiff charges, possession with intent to deliver and possession. And by the way, when you dig into it, the history of charges on these folks is unbelievable. So you talk about repeat offenders. I mean, they should be sentenced to some serious time like everybody else there in Latah County. When they get arrested and they don't talk, believe me, they get stiff sentences. And whatever happened to equal justice under the law? You know, you break the same crime, you break the same law that I do, and we both get sentenced for the same time. That's equal justice under the law. It's in the Constitution. See, that doesn't come into play, though, when a drug task force is there taking all their leads from arrests, working up the chain of command, and leaving poor people to make those decisions whether to talk and set people up or not to try to save their own butt, puts them in danger. So that's why that whole process it's not a very good process, folks. But here's where it really gets hairy. Because when things like that happen and you're involved in it, and when I say I'm talking about like the defense attorney, the judge, the prosecuting attorney. See, when people make those deals with a drug task force and then something happens, like people in that industry go and send a message, well, guess whose butt's on the line then? Yeah, all the people that was involved in making that deal. Yeah, how do they feel now? You approved that deal, you reduced those charges, and then this stuff happens. I mean, you are indirectly responsible for things like that then. Aren't you, judge? Aren't you defense attorney? Aren't you prosecuting attorney? Aren't you Mr. Drug Task Force people? Yeah, I would think that you are. But you're waiting for new stuff, though. I know this is old stuff. Okay, so what happened between December 15th and December 23rd? Well, let's go back to our old timeline. Okay, because that old timeline said what? It said that somebody, the local drug house in town, got busted. When they get busted again, I believe it's September 24th, I believe I said that possibly the mothers turning that evidence had something to do with that. And they were released. One of them was released on a furlough. Everybody likes it when I say furlough. One of them was released on furlough. On when? Yep, October 20th. And then he wasn't picked back up until December 2nd up in Tacoma. And between that time, the atrocity happened. So I went through on my last timeline video explaining all the events of the investigation, all the way up through December 15th when law enforcement took out Kohberger. But from the 15th to the 23rd, there was this big lull. What happened? How did they get to Kohberger? Well, what if I told you that on December 15th, let's back up just a second, okay? Because let's revisit that gentleman's charges. As I mentioned, drug trafficking, possession, he has 5 charges. Let's take a look at them real quick. Okay, so let's take a look at those charges real quick. These are the original charges from the arrest on September 24th, one that I speculate that the mother was involved in having set up. Drug trafficking and methamphetamine. I've already gone through this in previous videos. That one with a pound of meth carries a minimum sentence of 10 years in prison, maximum sentence life. So if he was found guilty of that charge, then he would have to spend a minimum of 10 years. Judge couldn't sentence him to less. Controlled substance possession. Drug paraphernalia. Count 1 of probation violation. He was already on probation, of course. and then probation violation, count 2. So he was already on double probation, violated both of them. That's some pretty serious charges. I mean, poor Miss Hatrock got sentenced to 3 to 4 years just on a possession charge. I mean, I'm looking at life in prison for a extreme repeat offender on this one, but that didn't happen. So let's see why it didn't happen. Let's take a look at all the parties involved in his case. All right, did you catch everybody? Let's take a look. Who was the attorney for that gentleman? Oh, here it is. Catherine Mary Mabbitt. Oh, Miss Mabbitt. We've heard that name. That's the coroner there in town. That was the coroner that ended up at that house over there in Latall County where the atrocity happened, and then did a lot of talking to the press like she wasn't supposed to. Yeah, she was the defense attorney for this gentleman. But did he retain her? Was she a private defense attorney, or did she work for that Miss Ann Taylor lady? Oh, yeah, public defender. So she reports to the chief public defender, right? So you could just as easily slash Catherine Mabbitt with Miss Ann Taylor on this gentleman. And remember, this is before Mr. Kohberger was picked up. In fact, this was back there in September, right? Because this is before he absconded from his furlough during that atrocity time, okay? Who else do we see in here that would have a lot of information on stuff like this? Oh, the prosecutor. Here it is. Prosecutor is William Wolford Thompson Jr. Whoa, it's Bill Thompson's the prosecutor on this guy. So Thompson's the prosecutor, Mabbitt / Ann Taylor is the defense attorney. Then the only thing we're missing here is the judge. I wonder who the judge is on this. Let's look and see. No, you probably didn't read all that. You seen at the top who the judge was though, right? Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall. That's who the judge was. That was the original judge. But did you read down everything I just showed you? If you didn't, it's okay. You should stop this thing. Go back to what I just showed you and pause it and read everything on there, because here's where it gets serious, y'all. We're going to fast forward to December 15th. Remember I said there's something happened between the 15th and the 23rd that got Kohberger on the radar. Law enforcement's going to say it was the IGG, which we all know is BSS. So what could have got him on the radar? Well, let's read through this thing real carefully. All right, December 15th, Judicial Officer Megan Marshall. What does this say? December 16th, there's a letter issued. And the comment on it is returning exhibits. Returning exhibits. I wonder what those are. See, 1216, felony information field. Information? Information. And the comment under that is criminal information. Criminal information. Figure it out, folks. Because on December 19th, at that arraignment for this gentleman, now the judges get switched. Do we have all the players involved? Yes, we do. District Court Judge John Judge is now the judge. So December 19th, who is the attorney? Kathy Mabbitt, no, the coroner. Who she worked for? Ann Taylor. Who's the prosecutor? Bill Thompson. Who's the judge? Johnny Judge. Well, and that hearing was held on the 19th. Let's see what happened in that hearing. Oh, let me show you. Did you understand that one? It's okay. Let's take a look at it. What happened on December 19th? Remember, this guy had 2 felony probation violations. He also had drug trafficking and methamphetamine over a pound, controlled substance possession, drug paraphernalia. And on the 19th, when they went in before the judge, he pled not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. And then you see there on the 20th, well, that judge accepted a plea agreement. What was the plea agreement? Guilty to simple possession. Sentence probation. That's where they got Kohberger's name, folks. Right there. And more to the point, all the players know it. Ms. Taylor knows it. Bill Thompson knows it. John Judge knows it. They're all working on the proceeding for the informant. Don't let them fool you with the IGG stuff that's coming out. We know that's bogus. They want to hide their case. Law enforcement doesn't want this to come out into the public because they're all involved in every one of these cases directly. Not to mention the college doesn't want it to come out because it would hurt their enrollment like you wouldn't believe. But that is exactly what's happening, and I'm not done. I mentioned in this timeline that this wasn't the end of it. He put off the sentencing for his probation until March of 2023. Now, what happened in March of 2023? They took down that drug trafficking organization, didn't they? Well, his probation went into effect that date. Now, who's sitting in the Latah County Jail on this very day? Him, his partner in crime, and Mr. Kohberger. There's only 15 seats in that county jail. They're all three in there. Why? Because they're protecting them. That guy's been in protective custody, the actual witness protection program, since March, and I can prove it. Because in March, they sentenced him to probation. Gentleman hasn't done a day in jail. Not a day. But somehow he was picked up in Whitman County in August of 2023 with 300 fentanyl pills. 300. Okay, that's another trafficking charge. What did he get? They shipped him back to Latah County. And in this very month, in April, and I'm going to blow your minds here in a second because I'm talking about on April 17th, and we all know what April 17th represents, right? What date was that? What was due on April 17th? What caused all the stir in the true crime Idaho 4 community? I believe that was the day the alibi came out, right? It's irate. On April 17th, they sentenced this guy to 3 years, 2 to 3 years. Okay, here's the sentence. 2 to 3 years in the penitentiary, but then they gave him credit for 407 days served. And they remanded him to the county jail. So he'll never go to the actual penitentiary. He'll only serve 9 months in the county jail, which is probably about the time it's going to take to actually set the court hearing. I'm predicting that right now. It's not going to go off that far. They're going to have to set it pretty soon. So probably 9 months will be when they set the court hearing. He'll be in that county jail until then because he's going to be testifying now. But guess what? And when I say he's going to be testifying now, I'm going to show you why here in just a second because it's going to happen. But he's sitting in there right now. April 17th, the day the alibi came out, is when Mr. John Judge, sentenced this guy again, okay? For another, this time fentanyl trafficking, which is, my goodness. But let me go back to that alibi statement real quick, okay? The defense puts out the alibi. The docs that just came out was the prosecutor. The prosecutor saying, if the judge, we don't want the alibi to exist at all. Wants the judge to rule against the alibi and tell him if he wants to present an alibi, Kohberger himself has to get on the stand and actually defend himself on the stand for his alibi. That's what that motion says. But it also says if the judge allows the defense to present that alibi, they need more time. In fact, let me show it to you right here. if the judge rules that the defense can use that alibi, then the prosecutor is going to request, and it says it in the motion, he will request more time so that he can put together a list of witnesses that can place Mr. Kohberger at the scene of the crime. Everybody looked at that and they thought, well, that means technical witnesses. We need DNA experts. We need more cast experts. We need RF data experts. That ain't what it means, folks. He wants more time to put together a list of actual witnesses that can place Mr. Kohberger in the house at the time of the crime. And the witnesses he's talking about is the one I'm talking about right now, and the other one that's sitting there in that county jail with him right now. And how do I know that for certain? Because on April 17th, along with everything else they sentenced this gentleman to, guess what they sentenced him to? A polygraph test. Now, why would somebody who is getting sentenced for drug trafficking need a polygraph test on April 17th? I'll tell you exactly why. Because they want to lend additional credibility to his witness statement on placing Mr. Kohberger at the crime scene. Now, I have really gone into some stuff on this one. I've showed you some receipts. I'm going to put it all together with you with the timeline because we are nowhere near done, because Kohberger was the last domino to fall in the row of dominoes that was set in motion. I hadn't even got into Kohberger, how they got to him and what happened to him on the 15th. And no, he's not still alive in witness protection, folks. Kohberger is in the ground, and that's where they wanted him. But I'm going to stop right there because I've probably put myself in danger in this one, folks. But I don't want to hear any more of this other stuff out there. If the true crime community, Idaho 4 community, really wants to know the answers to the questions in this case, and they really want truth, they need to get on this. Get it to them. Let's see who takes this and runs with it, because I'm not giving pie in the sky stuff today, folks. I'm giving you facts. And if you like this channel, subscribe. Hit the like button. Get this thing out there. Thank you for your comments, your criticisms. Pavarotti is out.